Yeah, do the spiel. Do you have it right there?
Okay, hold on. Yeah, I do. Wait.
Yeah, I think we're live. You should probably do it.
Okay, hold on. Right. It's the Game Audio Hour, number 101, a weekly podcast where, let me just put this a bit closer to my webcam so it doesn't look like I'm actually looking at the other screen. There we go. A weekly podcast where we discuss all things game audio, from creative ideas to the latest techniques, project experience to audio secrets. Here, and nowhere else, well, actually a few other places, but mostly here, is where you'll find in-depth coverage and opinions related to game audio. Welcome, everybody.
That was beautiful, Alex. Beautiful.
Was that all right?
Yeah, it's good.
Excellent.
Now you have to introduce everybody. Done.
Okay, I've got to do a Kyle style, which means I have to do this beautiful flowing segue between the two of you. So let's go over to Ventura. Kyle, how are you?
Oh my God, I'm getting the worst Dalek echo. Are you guys hearing that?
I heard that.
Oh really?
Uh-oh, it's only coming from Japan.
Hello. Are you still getting it?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead and drop out and
Japan.
come back in, and we'll just we'll carry on from here.
Okay, hold
I
on.
have a feeling it
I have a
has.
better idea.
Oh wait, that sounds better now. All of a sudden.
There we go. How's that?
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
Okay.
It's gone.
I'm low quality now. How are you, Kyle?
I'm doing pretty good. I have. I hope that that Matthew Martinson is watching the show because I out-mic'd him today. Ha babies! I am running the Neumann TLM49 through the MOG into a compressor that I can't get to with this camera, and then into this loopback thing. By the way, everybody, this is pretty cool software. Can you see loopback back here? It says Game Audio Hour.
Kind
Nice.
of, yeah. Wow.
And so that took me a little bit to get figured out because you got to flip it off and on. But once you get it set, that's what you're hearing. I think it's good. Let me know if I go plosive, though, because I don't have a pop screen or anything.
It's all right.
So I'm
Speaking
You're
good.
of
sounding
pop
great.
screens.
You're sounding very radio friendly.
Speaking of sounding radio friendly and sounding great, how are you, Vince?
I'm doing all right. We got this whole sort of German versus American thing going on. I've honestly never been a huge fan of Neumann mics, with the exception of that M50, which is one of just those wonderful things for recording orchestras and ensembles.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I've always liked American and Japanese mics actually more than German. I'm not a big fan of the U87, the U89, the TLM 103, a lot of those things that are actually the standard bearers for voiceover. The Sennheiser shotgun mic that a lot of VO guys like to use. I like American. I'm rocking American right now. OK USA.
That is a good mic you've got. That Heil mic is pretty cool. Do they
Is
say
there
Heil
like
or
a-
Hale?
I think it's
Heil?
Heil. I think it's Bob Heil.
Okay.
Isn't it Hyrule?
Where is that?
Hyrule. Get it? See that? See what I did there?
No, I don't. I don't see what you did there. And let's move on.
Vince will explain. Anyway, is there like an overall difference between, like, is there a German sound with I really don't understand microphones, but is there like a German sound and a Japanese sound and an American sound and a
There's
British
definitely-
sound?
There's definitely a German cost.
Mm.
That's for damn sure.
Yeah, I think that there are certain sounds between the different countries, or at least between the manufacturers. I think Shure microphones have a particular quality to them. The SM7 and the SM57 are very different in terms of size, in terms of price, but I think that there is still a shared quality between them. And same thing for Audio-Technica, same thing for AKG. Things might be different in terms of shape, the actual mechanism that's in there, but I think that they all aim for a particular type of sound. So within these companies, I would say, yeah, there is a clear flavor to them.
Hmm.
Yeah, and this TLM49 is supposed to be kind of the modern M50, I guess, to be a little bit stretchy with it. But I love the sound of this mic. I think it sounds great.
Well, it certainly is treating your voice pretty well.
Oh, well, I'll have to listen to the show afterwards. Should I speak down here now? And just kind of put on
Okay, too much.
All right. I'll get so low, we need an airband filter.
Oh, man.
Oh,
The
dear.
airband on this Mog is amazing. I mean, why do I say I mean when I get ready to say the next sentence? The dumbest thing. So aside from that, the airband on this Mog is fantastic. I typically set it at 5K. Do you guys ever mess with the airband? Do you guys have the Mog plugin or Mog hardware?
I certainly do have the I have the Plugin Alliance version of the Mog EQ4.
Yes.
And
You got the EQ4 or the pre-Q4? I guess
have the
EQ4. I'm being an idiot. Sorry, I'm looking at the pre-Q4.
Right. It's probably the most money I've ever spent on an EQ plugin.
Yeah.
That is not, hey, bells and whistles, we can do anything kind of EQ, but a very specific function EQ. It's the most money that I've ever spent, and absolutely worth it. What do you actually get when you pay that? So what was it? I think it retails on Plugin Alliance for something like $130. And I think I got it on sale at $80.
Yeah.
And it's one of those. Let's see, what do you get when you pay extra for an EQ like that? Well, firstly, it's parametric, and that is more about workflow than it is about a specific sound. It's just that when it's a parametric EQ, it's more of a tendency just to go, okay, bang, 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 there we go, it's all set, all good, let's move on. And if you really wanted to sort of do very fine-tuning stuff or surgical cuts and things like that, then that's maybe it's not the best tool for that kind of thing. But just for a big, broad brush kind of sculpting of the overall tone, that's where these parametric EQs really. It's just because the values, you don't get sort of an analog range of values, at least on the plugin. That is kind of fixed to certain amounts of boost and cut and fixed to certain frequencies. Yeah. But the funny thing about the Mug, which really made it stand out compared to the other sort of more on the expensive side parametric EQs that I have, is that it's one of those things where it's actually quite difficult to make it sound bad.
I'm doing my best.
No, it's actually like whatever material you put through it, or at least in the limited range of synthetic stuff that I work with, every one of these settings seems to just sound really good, but it's just a different flavor on the original sound. It's hard to sort of really push it in one way and think, oh, that sounds horrible, now I did the wrong thing there. It's all more about sort of just basically what you're after, and it just changes the character of the sound so nicely, but still lets it sit very well. Every one of the little detents on the frequency knobs and on the cuts and the boosts seems to offer something different that's very usable, is what I'm trying to say. And then as for the airband, I guess the airband might be more useful in applications where you're dealing with recorded sound, because you have all those complicated real-world overtones that sometimes you don't have when you're dealing with synthesized material. Yeah. So at least with the stuff I do, the airband is less impressive as the mid-range and the low-range, what the Mug does.
Oh, that's nice. That's a good endorsement there, Alex. I would agree. I have the pre-Q4 in this lunch box, but I have the EQ4 in another one. I probably should have gone through from one to the other just to see what it sounds like. But this guy's got 65 dB of gain too.
Wow.
You could run some quiet mics through here and get them up, I'm actually running right now at 20, probably about 30 dB just to get the beef going on this Neumann. And then the airband on top of that is adding gain on top of that, just in specific frequency ranges. And of course, it doesn't have a Q adjustment, so you're going to get a pretty wide band, which explains why they've got the 40K option on the airband on this thing. If you go to 40K, you don't hear a lot, but when you crank the air gain up, now you're starting to accentuate the Q that's out on the edges. You're starting to get the volume up on that slope so that you can start to hear stuff in the in the 15 to 20 range if your ears are good enough. So it's kind of weird to have that 40 there initially, I thought anyway, but then when I use it and I crank up the air gain, I can get on, like if I put this on violins, it adds this cloud to the strings that are being bowed, it's really beautiful. Or if you get up on like high-end flutes or piccolos or something like that, it really adds a nice touch to it. And what I like, it's musical. You know, people use that term all the time, but if you ever want to know what it means, get something like this, because your brain says this is going to be harsh when I turn this up, and so you kind of don't want to do it. And then you take a piccolo and you move the air band to 20K and you crank up the air gain and you start to hear these tones that the piccolo is putting into the recording, but not being brought out in the mix. And it really adds a nice depth to it, and it doesn't sound harsh.
Have you looked at the EQ2?
The EQ2 has frequency ranges that are in between what you're getting with EQ4, right? So if you combine the two, you've got a broader scope of frequencies that you can affect.
I believe it's only 3 bands. So you have the low and high, and then the air band on top of that, and the high goes down into the mid range if you want. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm also a little curious about that, just because I really like these kinds of character EQs where the thing itself has a character, and if you're listening to a sound when you're in the mixing process and you think, I think, I'd really like that kind of sound. If you're able to have something which can get you that kind of sound very quickly, just lock it in, there we go, it's all done, instead of you have a sound in your mind and you spend like 1 hour and your ears are getting tired and you're sort of trying to tweak something to get it exactly right and it's just not quite working.
Yeah.
The workflow, especially with plugins, workflow is pretty much all that plugins have, I guess, when it comes to, when we're talking about software versus hardware. I mean, it's all really about, the convenience of workflow and what you get there. Nowadays, of course.
I got a tech question for you. Sorry to interrupt really quickly, but I'm looking over and I see my signal is jumping when I'm not speaking. So are you guys hearing an echo through my mic?
No.
Nope.
So the MOG is picking you up, but it's not. That's kind of weird, right? It's cardioid, so you would think that the signal wouldn't even be responding. That's crazy. I like that. Hey, another question, tech question, before we move on to this topic of the day, but because I just derailed us. I'm sorry, guys. But please finish the thought before I force us into the actual topic. I'm in the chat room, but I don't see Vince and me. Did it do its weird thing again where it sent us into a chat room? Or what's that called, like when you were playing World of Warcraft in the day and you would not be on the same server or whatever that your friends were on, but you would be standing in the same place?
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Meet me at the pond, and they go, I'm at the pond, and they're not anywhere to be seen because you're in a different, what was that called? I can't think of it.
A different instance?
Yeah, I guess it's a different instance. So anyway, the chat room did that to me a few times, so I assume it did it again, so I should probably log out and go back in.
Yeah, I'm doing something. We may
actually, now I see Logan and Matt. Oh, okay, cool.
Gotcha. I'm logging out. Yep, here I go.
Yeah.
Audi 5000, as they say. So, hey, Alex, finish your thought and introduce the new topic, because I love it when you speak out of your fancy voice.
Fancy voice. Well, I'm not going through any mugs. I'm coming to you straight through the Jobs 4000 on the side of my Mac here. I can't remember the thoughts. I'll go straight into the topic. Guys, let's talk about studio monitors. Now, studio monitors, let's first lay the groundwork, the bits that we know, before we get into the bits that we can actually talk about that are interesting to discuss. The bits that we know are, yes, it's great to have studio monitors, and yes, it is a really, really good idea to get used to your studio monitors. So I guess if all you can afford is a cheap pair of, Behringer or M Audio or sort of budget kinds of speakers, then that's great. Just listen, just go hard at them and listen to them all the time and get really used to them, because that will help you. Oh, and always make sure that you're referencing other tracks of music as you're mixing your own, to give yourself a sort of a base plate to come back to make sure that you're not, being fooled by what your monitors are producing. So these things we know. Now, let's talk a little bit about studio monitors that you guys have used, that you've liked, why you've liked them, what you look for when you're going for new studio monitors, and the big question, which I'm sure a lot of our budget-conscious or new players to the game here will be interested to hear about, is it even worth it having studio monitors if, for example, you are making a game that's primarily going to be listened to on headphones, if you're doing a VR game or a mobile game. And if you have a very nice pair of headphones, is it even worth having a pair of studio monitors? So let's go. Let's first wind it all the way back and go back to talking about studio monitors that you guys are using now, have used before, have liked, and general kind of geeky, boring gear stuff. Vince.
Oh man. Studio monitors that I've liked. When it comes to the stuff that I've owned, I've honestly been on the cheap. The stuff that I've really enjoyed using has been at other studios. I think the best stuff that I've used has probably been the Blue Sky monitoring systems. So when I was at Sony, they had Blue Sky monitoring in both stereo and 5.1 for sound designers over there, and it was really wonderful. You could just hear forever into the sound, I would say. It's just there's just so much stuff there. And I always wish that I could afford something like that. Unfortunately, it was around $2,000, $3,000 for me, and I got a 5.1 monitoring system from M Audio at the time, which I thought was okay, about $500, $600, and I got used to it. I learned how that sounded. I cross-referenced what I was doing at work with what I was doing at home. And I thought, okay, at least I can use this. I have a pretty good idea of what's going on, and I can predict how things are going to sound on a wide variety of sources just with this monitoring system that I have at home, as cheap as it was. These days, I'm still rocking it pretty much cheap Project Studio style, except I've upgraded to some M Audio BX8s. And I've also got some 5-inch M Audios as well. I think there's just something about them. I'm very used to what they are. I really got to sort of figure them out. I've been using these M Audios and the M Audio brand for about 15 years now, and it's been okay for me.
That's fantastic. Actually, that's probably interesting for, as I said, budget-conscious listeners to know that, even at the echelons that Vince Diamante works at, the high, lofty echelons that you work at least in terms of the quality of stuff that comes out with that game company games. It's interesting that the monitors that you're using are, at least in the grand scheme of monitors, they are sort of on the, I guess, more of the budget end of the scale. Compared to all of because the sky's the limit really for how much you want to spend, and obviously there's a sort of the quality as you spend more tapers off a bit, but that's really interesting. Do you think, have you ever thought, I'd like to get something, I'd like to like if you've gone to friends' studios or colleagues' studios and they've got more higher range monitors, and you thought, "Wow, this is what I've been missing out on." Have you ever felt that?
I have at some times, and really, it's not a question of it being immediately, "Oh, there's the difference," but over prolonged listening and with really careful listening. So, with my current monitoring setup, I feel like, okay, I'm going to listen to this, and I'm going to listen for things, and I'll try to address them. It's kind of like, jumping from a 21-inch monitor, which is kind of a small monitor these days. It's kind of funny that, to a 27-inch, better than HD, 2K, 4K resolution display. It's like, oh, you immediately see differences, and you don't have to worry about using tools in order to zoom in and look at the canvas. I have a friend who's nearby, and I'll check out some stuff that he's got, and he's got these very nice Dynaudios. Similar setup to what I got, stereo, 8-inch, and it's a little bit faster to pick up on all the things that are happening in there. That's pretty useful, especially if you're listening to new material. If I was a mixing engineer and I was working constantly with what other people were giving me and working with that, I would definitely see the value in having a really nice quality monitoring setup. But since most of what I do is just working with my known material and I know exactly what's going into them, and I know all the processes that are behind them, um, I don't feel like I'm missing too much by only monitoring with my M audios versus something nicer like Dynaudios or Neumann or other stuff that's in there. Um,
That's really interesting. Actually, that's a pretty key point for people to consider when they if you have a medium-sized budget and you're thinking, okay, the obvious place that people will go is right. I'm going to get the most expensive monitors that I can afford because that's going to be better. But it's interesting that you point out that's a key difference between what we do and what arguably the majority of the market for high quality studio monitors do, which are mix engineers and post people and basically people who don't really know what's coming down the pipeline every day. So that they need to have extremely accurate monitoring so that they can pick apart what's coming down their pipeline because they didn't make it themselves. Whereas in our case, as you say, everything that's coming out of our speakers is what we intend to put into them because, pretty much all of us in game audio are working with our own stuff. Do you think then if somebody does have sort of a mid-range budget and they can afford the higher-end stuff, do you think it's actually maybe money that's better put somewhere else where they could get by with a sort of a more lower-range budget set of monitors and put that extra money into something else?
Yeah, if there was something else that's there, if it was a different noisemaker, a different library, a different plugin, and they can see the value in that, whether it comes to workflow or being able to make a different type of assets or a different type of music genre that you can more effectively do. Yeah, my gut says, yeah, do that instead of jumping up a tier or two in terms of monitor quality.
Wow, that's really interesting. Kyle?
Although I see Kyle is taking a drink there. I wonder if I'm setting him off in some way there.
No, but I do a lot of mixing, so I get a lot of stuff from other people, and that's a very good point about that. But I have a fear when it comes to why am I so red? I can't stand how red this light makes me. But
you're just that angered at what I've just said.
I should have
He's
steam.
on fire.
Somebody take this and put steam coming out of my ears on Twitter. I'll stand still. I'll give you a face.
There we go.
That's all you get. That beauty right there. Gosh, there's so much in this. There's so much beef in this. I want to get in so many places, but I didn't want to interrupt you guys. Vince is right on about if you're making your own stuff, just get used to your monitors. But subwoofer becomes an issue because when you're doing sound design, you may have something translating in the low end that you're not hearing without a subwoofer. So you do have to start to consider that. You can't just go out and buy, or grab mom and dad's home speakers without a subwoofer and throw them in your studio, although it would work. You might not be doing yourself any justice there. And across whether you're in games or whether it's I hate the term pro audio, but that's what they call it for things that aren't game related or corporate audio related. Their KRKs are everywhere, so you can't go wrong with a pair like KRK6s or something. Although I don't own a pair, and I don't think I've ever worked on a pair, but every time I'm at a studio or I see a picture of a studio, there's KRKs up there. Now on to the next thing. The one thing that's always there is NS10s, and I had a pair of NS10s, and I replaced them with Yamaha HS50Ms when they came out. And I still use HS50Ms to this day. I feel that they are as modern and accurate a representation of NS10s as you're going to get. Better than that, they don't blow up so easily because they're not made of old materials that are aged, and I've blown more tweeters out of an NS10 than I care to mention, and it's very hard to get parts at a reasonable price for NS10s, so you're really taking a chance. So what you do is you front load the NS10s with a limiter, but now the music coming out of there has got this harsh limiter on it so that your speakers don't blow up, and that doesn't make any sense. I want to be able to just really punch these things and not have them explode. So I switched to the HS50Ms, and I've been doing this for years, and I actually convinced my What's the other guy that's on the show, Mike Shapiro? I also did some taste testing, if you will, ear testing with him, and he's also rocking the NS50Ms, or I mean HS50Ms. But here's the thing. Yamaha manufactured the HS50Ms to be the modern NS10s. They couldn't do it perfectly because they're using different parts than they were using in the 70s, 80s, and 90s when they were making NS10s. But they came very close and gave you a very flat response, which is very good. It's such an interesting story, so I'll try to get through it quickly. Old people like me who remember the NS10s heard the HS50Ms and said, oh, that's awesome. These are NS10s. But they released them in a time where people who are producing music are much younger, and they've been doing it out of their bedrooms, and they weren't familiar with the NS10s as much. And so when they bought the HS50Ms, they said, holy crap, what is this piece of shit I just spent money on? It sounds harsh, and it's all mid-rangey, and I can hear everything. I can hear the spit noises of the person, not understanding that that's what you want out of these if you're mixing, because you want to hear that ugliness so that you can make it sound good on these speakers. That's catchphrase. If you make it sound good on NS10s, it's going to sound good anywhere. So Yamaha released or re-released the HS50Ms as in ADMs and all that stuff as the HS series, just like HS5, HS7. Those aren't the same as the HS50Ms. And by the way, I keep saying the 50Ms because I've got a room here that's like 21 by 14 or something like that, and I don't need big 8-inch woofers in here. That'll blow my brains out. I just need little 5 guys. A lot of people buy monitors that are way too big for their room, and you don't need that. These are speakers. These things can crank sound. You got to consider if I'm mixing in an auditorium, sure, I need to have some big speakers, but I don't need them in here. And too big will cause reflections, and I can't tame my room and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, back to the point. They re-released, and what you buy today from Yamaha are these HS and then a single number, an integer series, and those are colored, and people are buying them because they're going, oh, these sound much better than what was out before. But you've also gotten yourself away from that NS10 sound, so it's a trade-off. If you want to have that flat harshness that most people are mixing at, you're going to want to get in an NS10 kind of situation, and I recommend the HS50Ms. And if you want something colored, then you can go anywhere else. You can go to, I mean, there's some people that say they're flat, but they're not as flat as the NS10s, I'll tell you that. So there's my spiel on HS50Ms and why you want to look into those. By the way, they're all over eBay because people bought them, and then they were like, I hate these things. I can't wait to get rid of them. And so you can get a bunch of HS50s for so much cheaper than they were when they were new, and also not as expensive as just getting the HS series. With that said, I ended up working on, and I still do, some cinema projects. And this particular cinema that I was associated with was 21.3. So I needed to up my game to 7.1 so that I could mix properly. And I just put in a whole surround system, a 7.1 system of the HS50s. That's why you see them behind me, and they're in front of me. They're my center speaker. So that is my spiel on the HS50s, which really didn't have anything to do with what Alex was talking about, but I wanted to get that in so people knew that you could get good speakers, not have to buy NS10s, go to eBay, get your HS50s, and you'll have just as good a flat response as people have in professional studios.
Actually, it's precisely the speakers that I use too, the HS50Ms.
Yes.
Yeah, I got them when they first came out. Like you, it's like, well, I need some speakers. These are affordable. I live in Japan, so it's good to support the local economy. And I thought, yeah, well, I just sort of assumed that, well, I'm going to have to get used to anything that I get anyway, so I may as well get something that's kind of affordable and potentially enough for what I need. The word that I would use to describe them, not that I'm a huge aficionado of a wide range of different kinds of monitor speakers, but the word that I would use to describe them is no fuss.
Yeah.
No fuss. Like they're nothing glamorous. I mean, they look cool. They got the little white LED. You can see them right behind Carl there with the yellow, the sort of legacy white cones going for that NS10 look. But they're just sort of no fuss. The actual setup that I have here in front of me is absolutely horrible because my house where I live is open plan. It's just not made for this kind of work. And the placement of my speakers is, if I had a acoustic specialist come over here, he would probably just throw up everywhere. It's like, I can't work with this. Give me more money because I'm not going to work with this because it's
Who told
it's
this
horrible.
guy?
The HS50s on the back, they have a bunch of dip switches which can help you make some adjustments for the tone. And despite the horrible environment that I have, there's just no fuss. You know, they don't give a flying F. It's like let's just get on with the work. You know, we're not going to be fiddling about with
I agree.
getting a sort of a boutique sound here. It's like you want to hear your music, so I'm just going to give it to you straight as I see it. Here you go.
That's it. That's it. And you know, if you want to be comfortable, if you're going to mix for a long time, you got to have a pair of. First of all, always A/B, like Alex was saying at the beginning. You want to A/B against multiple sets of speakers if you're doing any kind of mixing. Now, I got to avoid this soapbox that's right underneath me and keeps creeping under my feet, and I keep kicking it away. But it's a bad idea for people not to take that next step after they spend all this time composing this beautiful music and to go, you know, I'm not going to mix it. I'm just going to kind of slap it together. In the world of audio, there's this thing called board mixes, and that is like dailies for audio. It's where the band comes in and they record, and they want to take a mix to play in their car, so at the end of the session they can. Unfortunately, there are so many board mixes that get released onto game soundtracks, and anybody with a critical ear will listen and go, well, that's kind of a weak moment right there. You know, that explosion could have been bigger, or who didn't think to mix the music and the sound effects that are on top of each other at the same time? You know, or why did the bass end of the VO artist is just gone in that game because an explosion went off? Who didn't think to carve that stuff out? That drives me crazy. So I think it's important to take that next step and mix your stuff. And if you're going to mix your stuff, then you need to have a couple of references, and you need to have something that's comfortable that people are going to be listening to, and you need to have something that's flat and uncomfortable so that you can find out all the warts and scabs that are all over your music and pull them out of your sound design. So for that, I use, and I just recently bought a pair of Neumann KH120s, I think they're called. They're beautiful. These things are fantastic, and I've been running a lot of my old mixes through them and listening and going, oh, that's a little muddy in the mid range. I probably should have been referencing something else instead of just staying on these HS50Ms, because that's a danger, right? The HS50Ms have that mid range and high range. It's very brittle and it stands out, and sometimes my brain will just go, oh, that's the way those things sound. I probably don't need to do much to the mid range, and you forget that you got to go, nope, I have to get rid of that, or it's going to sound like crap on a regular pair of speakers. And I've got some mixes that are definitely too MIDI for me. Mm. I first started on, and they're out here in the live room, a pair of Samson Resolve 80As. They are butt ugly. They fell out of the ugly tree and hit every branch on the way down and fell in some ugly manure. They are disgustingly ugly speakers, but they were cheap, and it's all I could afford. And they're 8-inch woofers, and I'll be damned if I didn't love the way those sounded. And so I just couldn't part ways with them. I held on to them, and then I'm always watching Gear Sluts, or I'm reading reviews someplace. And there's a couple of threads on Gear Sluts, and there's also Sound on Sound magazine, and they praised them. And I said, oh, I got lucky. They actually held up. It was a case where Samson put some money into something because they were trying to get into that field. And they still released the Resolves, and I can't speak for it. I don't know. This was the Resolve 80As. If you want the ugliest monitors you've ever seen in your life, they're good to catch darts as long as you don't hit them in the cones, because they are ugly. You could beat them with a stick, and they're just disgusting looking, but they sound pretty good. So I started on those, and then I moved on to the NS10s. Kind of went back to the NS10s. It's a long story. And then I went to the HS50s, and then just recently I bought these Neumann so that I could have a better A/B reference, because I caught my mixes were getting a little too mid-rangey. And they sound really good. Oh,
yeah, I'm actually
sorry, one more thing, the Auralux. And I think Matt M said he has one as well. You got to get a 5C Auralux, just because who doesn't need a wood-paneled speaker in their studio? You only really need one. That speaker was designed to, back in the day of mixing records, when game soundtracks still went doop, 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 and people weren't really focusing, but the Auralux was being, or the Auralux, I keep saying Auralux, the Auratone 5C was being used as a kind of a mono source to say, when I fold this down to mono, if it sounds good on there, then it's going to sound good on this person's, whatever mono thing they're using at home. And we have to deal with that because of iPhones and stuff like that. We still have to deal with mono environments, so got to be careful there. So get yourself a good mono speaker. Get yourself a good interface like this Coleman SR 5.1 that you can that has all these switches on it. I can be running in 5.1 stereo or full down to mono and go straight to the Oratone 5C. And anyway, so that's the speaker setup that I have.
Yeah, I'm actually it's the reason I brought this topic up today is because there's a chance that pretty soon I may be moving internationally, and I'm a little bit concerned. Like, these HS50s are very, very heavy. I don't have the boxes anymore, and you don't ever want to, like, as you all might know if you've moved internationally before, you basically split everything you own up into two groups. You have the sea freight, which takes 3 months, and 3 months on a boat being chucked around inside a crate by all manner of different kinds of laborers as it gets to its destination. And then you have the air freight, which arrives in like a week, and then sort of a week or two in customs, which is usually handled much more delicately.
Is that the one you put your kids in, or is that a different freight that you put your kids in?
No, that's the one you ride in yourself. You get a little seat and a seat belt and the food if you're lucky.
Kids are in the boat freight, right?
Yeah, that's right. 3 months. You have a bit of a break. Anyway, the thing is that, yeah, with these speakers, I really don't know. I'm actually thinking about selling these, and when I get to where I'm going, getting something new when I get there. But actually, now that you say that the HS50s are somewhat different from HS5s, which is what Yamaha sells at the moment, I'm sort of wondering, maybe it might be a good idea to check out other stuff. Looking at forums, one speaker that comes up very frequently in the same price range as the Yamaha HS5s, not the HS50Ms, but the HS5s, are JBL LS305, I think it was. JBL do a lower range monitor speaker, and that is reputed, at least on forums, who knows, but it's reputed to be a good speaker as well. So
I haven't heard it. I was just in a studio yesterday that was all JBLs, and then he had his large speakers were Uris, and the JBLs sounded better than the Uris, but the Uris were vintage, the JBLs were new, the Uris were those enormous, soft-fitted speakers that are in studios.
So the HS5 is actually considerably different from the HS50.
Yeah, if you look at the response charts on there, you see lumps and all kinds of stuff that it's doing to the color.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of people don't know how to read those charts. My God, that's so important to read those. That would be a great topic. If I would have thought ahead, I would have put one up and said, somebody will go, oh, look at it's tailing off here, and you go, well, it's a 5-inch speaker. You don't want a bunch of bass in there. That's where your crossover is going to happen, and send it down to your subwoofer. People don't really know that, or they'll say, why is there a bump right here at the 1K range? Well, maybe that's a bad idea, but further up the line, let's say a bump at 5K or something. And you go, well, that's probably because of the manufacturing. So you look at a different part of the chart that explains to you, here are some areas with the materials that we use that were sub high quality. Boy, that's diplomatic, sub high quality. And so we have to bump it here so that we can get a more flat response. And sure, you can see the bump, but what you're hearing is kind of a flat response. So it's important to read those charts and understand what you're looking for there as well.
Well,
okay,
so go ahead, I was just going to say, what about when you've got these speakers? Yeah, you can trust certain speakers to be more flat than others, but breaking out something like you got your 31 band EQ. I'm functionally doing that because I've got a linear EQ on everything that is coming out of my computer before it hits my speakers. That's going to just tailor everything that's going on in there. It tries to smooth things out, and not just that, but also tailor to the room. Something like a 31 band EQ is actually pretty cheap to get. $100, $200, and I think is one of those things that people should have. And having that for whatever speaker system you've got, you can make something more flat. You don't want to trust whatever speakers you get to sound however they are, sound the best that they can be just out of the box, right?
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Do you correct for your room, Kyle?
I do not. I do that with panels.
Okay.
And I have a very uneven room. I'm very fortunate. This room was built. It's got a floating floor. You can see it even here. You can see that what you think is an optical illusion because you probably assume that line is straight up there. That is not a straight line. It has a 1-inch pitch across the ceiling, both horizontally and vertically, and the walls close in a little bit. They start to tip in a little bit, and so you'll notice things like my panel right back here is not square on the corner because of the angle of the wall. So I'm breaking up a lot, and that right back there, by the way, behind my head is a giant hanging base panel, and there's a base panel in that corner right there as well. I would put one over here, but I can't fit it. My fingers are going around for people not watching the show. And then in front of me, I've got panels. Over here, I've got panels, and then I'm floating a cloud, only a single cloud right here, and that's at an angle as well. And so I don't tune my room, but I spent that expense someplace else. So I don't know if you think about modern technology and the fact that you can put a microphone in your room and now your system will make adjustments to it, that's pretty impressive to me. I don't use it because I don't know how true it is. You'd have to use it. It's like anything else. Like, if you use it every day, like Vince is using it, I'm sure he's used to it and he knows its nuances and the adjustments that he can make when some mid-range is honking someplace or something. Because when I'm mixing something, I don't want I want the speakers to tell me what the sounds are that I'm mixing. I don't want there to be something in the way that says, here are the sounds, but now here's the adjustment I'm making before it goes to the speakers because your room needs correction. So that gives me just enough paranoia that I go, but I do use room correction in my front room where I've got a 7.1 set up for movies because I didn't want to put up a bunch of panels. So I do know it works, but I don't use it in here.
Okay, so let's tackle the elephant in the room. There's an elephant in here? There is an elephant. He's just sitting off camera behind me here in Japan.
Would you call me? My family walks in and tackles me.
So the big question is, let's say that you have at this stage you've done a few mobile games. You've done them with you've forked out a decent amount of money for a good set of headphones, and you're kind of used to working with headphones, and you like the portability that it gives you. You've done game jams before. You mainly work on your laptop. You're kind of used to going out, sitting somewhere, and with your headphones and doing work as opposed to sitting in a studio that you've made for yourself. So you're kind of a headphones person. You're doing mobile games now. Maybe you're going to be doing a VR game next, which is most likely to be consumed with headphones as well. So basically, your medium is, at least the output medium, is sound for headphones. If you have a decent pair of headphones that you've bought specifically to do this and you're used to them, is there any worth at all in actually buying even a set of budget monitor speakers? Vince.
Yeah, Vince, go for
yes.
it. Yeah,
just because of comfort. I don't know. Maybe I haven't found the right headphones, but I haven't found anything that I would be comfortable. Oh, I'm working on these headphones for 6 hours or 8 hours at a time, both in terms of physical comfort, how they are on my head, as well as, fatigue. My ears just get tired, even with the very best headphones that I've tried. And now, granted, I haven't tried any $1,000 headphones. Like, right now, these headphones here, these JBLs are pretty good. They're like $200. I could not imagine using these headphones for more than 1 day solid. Monitors, just the comfort, the lack of fatigue if you've got a good set of monitors, and also the actual physical pressure on your head is just a huge thing.
Oh, and labyrinthitis. That's how I got it. Headphones, babies.
Say it again. What?
I ended up getting this inner ear infection because of headphones, and it takes like 4 years for the damn thing to go away on average. I still got it.
Whoa, slow down. Go wind it back a bit there. What's that about?
So
what have you got?
During the days of Guitar Hero, we wore headphones all the time because we would have to we were in a room with a bunch of us anytime we were doing MIDI tracking or MIDI design, we'd all have on headphones and do our work, and you'd spend 8 hours with the occasional break, but you'd spend who am I kidding? It's a game industry. You'd spend 12 to 15 days a day working on this game, and I wore headphones all the time. And what ended up happening is the moisture that builds up inside headphones and all that stuff I wasn't getting enough air, and my cochlea, it's called labyrinthitis, got an infection. It got a viral infection, and your cochlea is filled with little hairs, and they started touching each other. And your balance system is based on your toes, your eyes, and your cochleas. And so I got all dizzy and lightheaded and weird, and I still have it on occasion. It takes a very long time for it to go away. And it's all because of headphones. The other people that get it are surfers because they're always out in the water and their ears constantly getting water.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a danger to headphones, but you have to mix on headphones as well. You have to reference those up-close things, on headphones as well. And I use the Bear Dynamic DT 770s, I think they're called. They got like a little plushy kind of thing. They're real comfortable. I like closed back, not open back, because I'm trying to listen to something. I don't want open back headphones make no sense to me. Just take them off. Am I an idiot? Did I miss something there? Because I know some people like, oh, open back, but they're open back. So you're listening, yes, but everything else that's going past you is also going into your ear canals. You want some sort of isolation, don't you?
Yeah, well, actually, open back headphones don't make a lot of sense for production, but they do make a lot of sense for just listening, especially if you're in an environment where you don't actually have a room to yourself, or you don't actually have, like specifically for me, I used to really love a pair of, they're called Alessandros. They're made by Grado Labs. And they were superb. And the open back really makes a difference in that situation. I use them at night when my kids are asleep, right? So it has to be quiet. And so it is actually quiet in the house anyway. And having open back headphones is kind of like listening to speakers, but they're headphones. Gotcha. So obviously you need to have a quiet environment. So I guess it does suit a sort of a certain lifestyle need, I suppose. But
so you still want to be able to hear what's going on outside and still wear headphones and get your work done. I understand.
That's pretty scary about the infection that you had in your ear. I didn't know that kind of thing was possible.
I had I was very lucky, got a very light version of it, labyrinthitis. David Bowie shows up in your ear canals and starts playing tricks. Bad joke. So no, nothing here, nothing major. It just lasts so damn long, so if I'm tired, if I get stressed out, like I'll get a little spinny and lightheaded.
Wow.
Trust me, dude. People go through major problems. This is like me complaining because somebody didn't open my scotch bottle for me. That doesn't seem right.
I thought that
it is there. It is a possibility, and I got lucky that I got a light version. There's some people when it happens to them, they're just in bed for a while because the vertigo is so bad they can't even move.
Wow.
So it's a bad thing if you get it bad. I got lucky. But I think headphones are important to mix on. I think you have to have 2 different pairs of speakers, and I wanted to drop a couple of pieces of linkages on people before I forget. And look at us, we're 50 minutes into the show. We still got to thank our sponsor. I wanted to say about the best speakers that I've ever heard right now, monitors I've heard right now, are being made by Focal, and I love the sound of their SM9s. Of course, I can't afford a pair of those, and neither can 4 billion of the people in the United States because they're ridiculously expensive. But we went to NAMM this year, and I went over to the Spitfire booth, and you can imagine how loud NAMM is. Vince knows, he was right there, and I could clearly hear what Spitfire was pumping out into the general atmosphere because of these Focals. As soon as you started to approach their carpet, it was like the entire show stopped making noise and just let Spitfire be heard. And these speakers were amazing at cutting through the mess, cutting through the noise, being precise. And then I walked right up on one because I didn't have ear protection in, but I wanted to just get up in there and just see what was going on, and it was just crisp as a bell. I loved those speakers. So Focal makes some affordable ones too that I hear are really, really good. I'm going to pimp those right now. The Alpha series, it's affordable and also very, very good. So check out Alphas. Those are affordable. Another one that I wanted to point out was that there's this audio file. Have you guys been to hdtracks.com to buy your music?
Yeah.
So hdtracks.com is all high def music, and you can select whether you want it to be lossless or whatever you want it to be. You can, if the album was released, it's like 192. You can download the 192 version. You're not stuck with cheap ass, 92 MP3s or something like that. So go out to HD Tracks, get high def audio, listen to your speakers. But best of all, they have an album out there called Audiophile High Res System Test. I highly recommend people get that. It has, let me see how many songs, because I brought up the link. It has 76 pieces of audio on it that range from jazz groups playing to a xylophone by itself to a children's chorus to a violin concerto. So you can just listen to these bare pieces of high def, all 192 24-bit, and listen to how your speakers sound. And then on top of that, and I love this part, tracks 36 through 74 are just sine waves at certain hertz, and like 36 is a sine wave at 10 hertz. And if you want to know if your sub is working properly, pump it into your system and see if just your sub is playing that. Of course, it's 10 hertz. You're probably not going to hear much of it, but then you get to 20 hertz, 25 hertz, 31.5. And what I like to do is I mute. I have a system where I can mute the speakers that I'm not listening to. So I'll mute, like, say, the Neumanns, and I want to know what the range is on a Neumann. And the Neumann will say, we have a range from this to that. And then I'll play something that is outside of that range and see if I can still hear it through those speakers. And I'll go, yeah, I can still hear a little bit of that. So it tells me, that they're saying they'll give you this, but they will give you a little bit more, which is very important when you're doing your crossover, because if you are dealing with bass frequencies that the speaker says it's not doing, you're going to get muddy bass if you set the crossover in the wrong place. So you want to make sure who has control of what frequencies. It's very important. And you can move all the way up. And what was great about when I bought the Neumanns is that I realized that I still needed the Yamahas. I thought they may replace them. They may be awesome and just end up, I don't need my HS50Ms. But I played all these frequencies, and when the Neumann cut out, I was still getting good responses out of my Yamahas. And I was thinking, that's fantastic. That lets me know that these are doing something that I need. It's just another tool in the toolkit. And so I definitely say check out this hdtracks.com. I'll put the link in the show notes and also in the chat in just a second, if I can ever find the chat again. It keeps kicking us out.
Yeah, I think we really need to investigate a new chat solution here.
So the last thing I'm going to bring up is, before I say I want to thank Isotope, is
we have a competition winner to announce too, by the way.
We do. Is that, excuse me, the air conditioner just got down my throat. You want to A/B your music, just like Alex said at the beginning, and I use a plugin called Magic A/B plugin.
Oh yeah.
What you can do with this, it's made by a company called Sample Magic. SampleMagic.com, Magic-AB is the product you're looking for. You can load up, I think, 5 or 6 songs into Magic A/B, and then you can hit play. And those songs will play on a loop silently in the background. And what you can do is you can be mixing or you can be writing. And this is great for writing too, because say you want to match some sort of, epic ostinato that you're totally into, and you don't want it to sound the same, but you want the rhythm to be the same, or you want to take some characteristics of it. You can just select that section, because you can select how much of this waveform. When you load up the song, you can select what part of that song you want to listen to. And it'll just play that on a loop, and then you can go writing and then cut back and forth with your mouth, going back, here's mine, here's theirs, here's mine, here's theirs. And you can just, get your characteristics right. I'm not saying that anybody should, plagiarize somebody else's music, but if you want to borrow some of the themes from that, because that's what music is all about, is borrowing. But
Magic A/B is fantastic.
A/B, also, Magic A/B is fantastic. Alex.
It also gives you RMS and peak metering in there as well. And switching between A and B it's nicely done. It's like one click. It's not like you have to sort of look at what you're doing. You can basically close your eyes and just click with your finger and switch to get like a good match if you're after a reference kind of mix sound.
I'm muted and I was talking. Absolutely true. And the metering is extremely important, because here's how I use it, and I think it's the way everybody's probably using it. I'm not doing anything special, but I will have my mix going, and I can see, like if my mix is on B, I can see what's playing on A, and I'll select the section like the chorus, and then I'll go to the chorus of the song I'm mixing, and I'll go, okay, I'm a little loud, and this is an epic song, that's being played on A. It's Opeth, and people are growling, and I'll go, wow, all that loudness, and they're still quieter than the mix that I'm doing right now for the chorus. I need to make some adjustments. So that's a really great hint for bringing stuff up or down in your mix to match these volume levels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, referencing other tracks is the best way, regardless if you're on really cheap headphones or if you're on super expensive speakers or budget speakers or you're in a terrible space or whatever. Having a quick and easy way to reference your mix to somebody else's, like a specific kind of music that you really like the sound of, or something that's in the same kind of genre as what you're going for, or whatever. It's the simplest and easiest way to overcome limitations that you might have in your monitoring setup.
Beautifully said with that beautiful voice. There you go. So let's announce our contest winner and say thank you to iZotope for sponsoring us. iZotope is doing something special for this giveaway, which we didn't announce because it was our 100th show when we did the giveaway. They said, hey, why don't you do this other thing as well? So whoever wins today, you're going to win 2 pieces of software, not just one. And but there is a caveat. Right now, they're in Vegas. There is a kind of video audio convention. I don't know what it's called. NAB?
Oh, NAB, yeah. Yeah, broadcasters, yeah.
That's what it is. And iZotope is there right now. So they forewarned me and said, we will not be able to deliver people their license for 1 week more because we are at NAB. And people are already nabbing their attention. Did you see what I did? Oh, that was brilliant.
Wow.
Oh, my God. I got to take a break. Hold on. That was just so good.
We don't want to lose our audience before we make the announcement, Carl. The audience is they're just walking out right now.
There's only 2 minutes left of the show. I want to see how long I can go with bad puns. So, Alex, would you like to roll the magical gah selector and see what we need? A sound like a or a bingo sound that we can play while Alex churns the numbers.
Okay, we have, let's see, let me count them. We have 43,768 participants in this time's competition, which is fantastic. Thank you, 43,768 people.
Did you just look at how many Twitter followers iZotope has? Is that all you did?
No, look at how many Twitter followers you have, Carl.
They got the wrong Kyle.
So, we have a winner. The winner
Mike Shapiro.
is...
Kyle Johnson.
No, it's not Mike, and it's not me. It's never me. But anyway, let me get this straight down to it. The winner is Spencer Rydell. Rydell, I hope I pronounced that right. Spencer, congratulations. You have won yourself Ozone 7 and... What else?
Oh, sorry, you're waiting on me. You have also won yourself Mobius Filter. So it's a new filter plugin that they've got that is badass. Did you guys mess with that?
I haven't yet, but I looked at it and just grinned.
Yeah, go out to their video demo. It is so fun to listen to what they're doing out there. Yeah, Mobius Filter is a new product they've got coming out. So you've won Ozone 7 and Mobius Filter. I will put Mobius Filter in the watch list, the watch live show, but I don't think anybody's out there because we keep getting kicked out. As a matter of fact, Spencer's probably out there going, yay, I won, and nobody's answering him. So sorry to anybody who's in the chat room. I don't know what the hell's going on with our chat thing. It's called, what's it called, Kiwi something or other? Kiwi IRC. It's terrible today. Congratulations, and thank you, iZotope, for sponsoring the show and letting us give away these awesome, awesome pieces of software.
Yeah, I want to play around with the Mobius filter some more. I mean, I've got it, and well, Shepard tones are cool. That's all I gotta say. Shepard tones are fun, and doing that with different types of source effects is a pretty cool thing. So
you think? Yeah. I wonder how many people here. I'll fully admit I had no idea it was called a Shepard tone. I would just describe it as that THX effect. You know, I didn't know it's called a Shepard.
Oh no! Oh, the Shepard tone is just really one of the coolest audio illusions, and basically it just messes around with the pitch and the quantity of both lower and upper partials, so that if you're going up the scale, you can make it sound like you're going up infinitely up the scale. If you're going down the scale, you can sound like you're going infinitely down the scale, and you don't really have a good sense of where you are, and it creates a really interesting perspective on different types of sound effects with different source sounds.
So if you want to create a riser in some tense horror game, use a Shepard tone, and it just keeps going, and you don't know when the guy's going to pop out at you. And now with Mobius Filter, you have that opportunity. And by the way, anybody who wants to get it, congratulations to Spencer, but it's still available to everybody else for $49, I think, on their website. and it's awesome. I love Isotope. I would kiss and hug them a whole bunch if they would let me come to Boston, but I don't think I'm allowed to come to Boston. Isn't that where they are? They're in Cambridge or Boston right there?
Wait a minute, are they?
I think they are.
I think
I'll go find out, and we will deliver the snuggles. Let's do that together, guys. Let's go snuggle up to Isotope, and then go to PAX East.
I'll let you go first there. Unfortunately, I'm not going to PAX. Are you going to PAX East?
I've been once. It was super, super fun.
Oh, okay.
But I am not planning on it right now. My next convention is... There's something coming up, and I can't think of it right now. I can't think of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what else.
It's most likely Bit Summit in July in Japan. You're coming to that.
Always. Send a boat, and I'll jump in. All right, guys. I think we better sign off. That was a fun show about speakers. There's so much content there. It's very difficult to kind of cut that down. And you know what else is? I'm extremely opinionated about it because it's like anything else with audio. You know, you are using these sources to try to make a career for yourself and make the best decisions possible. You know, and so it's hard to say, hey, I just bought a pair of $50 speakers and I'm producing the best stuff of my life, because somebody will turn around and say, no, that can't possibly be true. And it's a weird place to be in, because you don't need to have expensive monitors to make good music and to make good decisions about your music. You just got to be smart about the way you use it. And so is proof in my studio. I just bought these Neumanns, and they're not expensive, but they're not cheap, and yet my Yamahas are still going to be probably the #1 thing that I go to. It never ends. But add those colors to your palette, add those tools to your toolbox that you can A/B back and forth. It can only make your stuff sound better. Great topic, Alex. Great suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we aim to please.
Yeah, I aim to go eat spaghetti. It's Monday night. It's my spaghetti night. I'm out.
Right. You caught yourself. Are you sure you're not having pizza?
I know. I can't eat pizza, man. That stuff. I can't drink beer and I can't eat pizza. That's just shortening my lifespan by years.
Gotcha. Scotch and spaghetti it is.
Scotch. All right, fellas. It's great seeing you. I'll see you next week. Congratulations, Spencer. Thank you, Isotope. And bye.